got a chance.
What was the title?
Not just me.
Oh, I know that. Oh my God, can I just get an establishing shot,
Okay,
please?
get these
Oh my God. Oh my God. Fight back.
On the exploitation of people who are different from the folks who hold the power. So capitalism continues to exploit black people in ways that it doesn't exploit working class white people. That don't mean working class white people ain't getting their ass kicked. It just means we getting our ass kicked a little worse in a different way. Capitalism exploits and denigrates LGBTQ and trans people in a different way from the way black folks are being exploited. Women are exploited in a different way under capitalism than
the Q community. Say yes to the disabled movement and all of those sectors who are under attack by the same wretched capitalist system. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Give it up for Brad Becker. Are you ready to march?
Oh, we are getting ready to march. It's going to be a beautiful one. Okay, familia. So next up, we got Jackie Lookman from the Black Alliance for Peace coming up. Give it up for my sister and comrade, Jackie Lookman.
This ain't a church service, but it needs to be a revival. The face of violence this whole time. War is causing irreparable harm to our planet, and it is a bipartisan effort to back this destruction. No one in any country, anywhere, including Somalia, Yemen, Syria, Palestine, or Ukraine, should have their homes blown apart. We condemn the illegal invasion of Ukraine while also condemning NATO aggression. We can acknowledge the choice of a people to secede from a country that they were forced to be in, while also acknowledging that we must strive to end all war. Our leaders are willing to sacrifice our lives and our planet in order to keep wealth and power. We can and we must fight back. Hands up! Hands up!
Fight back!
Hands up!
Fight back!
Hands up!
Fight back!
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Afeni.
And next, I want to bring to the stage, from Life After Release, Afeni Evans.
When I say hands up, you say fight back. Hands up!
Fight back!
Hands up!
Fight back! Fight back! Fight back!
Good afternoon, y'all. My name is Afeni. I'm a community organizer with Life After Release, and I'm also an anti-war army veteran. We are here to demand peace in Ukraine and to the end and an end to the toxic militarism that is destroying people's lives and our planet. America is a country where 1 in 5 children under the age of 5 are insecure, and they are cutting food stamps because we can't afford it. Yet, on March 9th, 2023, the Biden administration proposed a fiscal year 2024 budget that asked Congress to give the military-industrial complex $842 billion. They sell us a false dream that they are protecting women in other countries, while the bodily autonomy of women in this country is being stripped from us. They say that one of the reasons why we have to beat Russia, why we have to unseat Vladimir Putin, is to protect trans and queer people in Russia. And there are over 350 bills criminalizing trans youth and trans people across this goddamn country. Woo! The U.S. is the world's largest polluter, partly because our military and Biden just approved the Willow Project. The has issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin. And fine, I'm not here to defend his actions, but I want to ask, when is the ICC coming to pick up George W. Bush? When the hell they gonna come get Dick Cheney? Hillary Kissinger own ass, and they can go ahead and send a warrant down the hill to get Colin Powell too. Last time I checked, there are American politicians with over 1 million Iraqis' blood on their hands right now. We spend $300 million per day, every day, for 20 years in Afghanistan, just to leave them in ruin and starve their people through unjust sanctions. Unsuccessful war after unsuccessful war. Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. We're funding a dirty war in Yemen, dropping bombs in Somalia. We dropped bombs the same day Russia invaded Ukraine. We were bombing Somalia, and the news said nothing about it. We have been escalating tensions with countries like Iran and China for simply trying to, while trying to continue our armed stranglehold on the international economy. Let's be clear. NATO pushed the United States and NATO pushed by the United States instigated and continue to fan the flames of warfare in Ukraine. Adam Schiff said himself on the House floor that we fight Russia over there so we don't have to fight them over here. From pledging endless support and lethal aid to Ukraine to blowing up.
Thank you. I'm on there every day. Appreciate it.
International anti-war response demanding de-escalation, international cooperation, and opposition to unilateral coercive measures, militarization, and other forms of economic and military brinkmanship that will only exacerbate the human toll of this conflict. We have been campaigning against further military escalation and for diplomacy. Peace in Ukraine today. We have been doing so much work in terms of international diplomacy, sending delegations to countries like Venezuela. We've met with Maduro. We're proud of it. We've brought the delegations to Peru, Brazil, Bolivia, and we have had incredible success very recently this past week, where the governor of Okinawa met with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to discuss Okinawa's opposition to free Palestine. Comrades, in the words of a very wise man who we commemorate the 140th anniversary of their death this week, we have nothing to lose on our team. We have a world to win. Only together can we win. If you are not...
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. Hey, what's up, world? Welcome to another special edition of I Mix What I Like live right here on Black Power Media. Again, I'm Jared Ball, very happy to be your host. Welcome, everybody. Come on in. What's up, Leah? It was on point today. Let me see what's going on with the connection here. Anyway, yeah, it was good to see a couple people today. Leah included. Sugar Booger was good. Black Alliance for Peace. A lot of good folks were down there today. Peace, everybody. Welcome. Come on in. Come on in. Got to I just threw some random clips up there just to get the show started tonight. Nothing was in order, nothing complete. Peace. Because yeah, duh. And then somebody asked, right, why didn't we have exclusive backstage? That's a good question. And my question is, I didn't have the clip, but the question is, You know why we didn't have exclusive backstage? Because when the roll call of attendees and participants was read, and when, in particular, when Jackie finished her incredibly good speech, BPM wasn't mentioned. So, that's your fault. It's all of your fault. We haven't made BPM enough of an unavoidable, too big to fail. Anyway, so I wasn't obviously intending to do something today, but then I watched, speaking of Jackie, I watched her recent discussion from the other day with Dr. Linwood Tawhid, and I saw, and just as I was thinking, damn, I wish I was a part of that conversation, a couple people said the same thing, including a critic. So I was like, I saw the critique and was like, I can't not, So back in town, got an empty house for a rare moment. My body is killing me from the brief participation in the march today. I'm not built for this stuff anymore. So I was like, let me come on, we can hang out, and if anybody's around, we can hang out and chop this up a little bit. Exactly. Banks Power Media. Exactly. So those who are here now, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you. And those who will see this and hear this later, welcome to you as well. But I thought that there was a lot in that conversation that Jackie had with Dr. Tawhid that was fascinating. But there was a couple things in particular that I thought we would chop up. So I just want to make sure. So definitely jump in and let me know if for some reason the audio isn't working properly. I'm a little bit not fully set up, so I just want to make sure. But let's go. Let's check out just a couple of these clips here. Let's see. Pull this up here. And now, before I play any of this initial clip from Dr. Tawhid, yeah, I appreciate that, man. My babies, man, they're growing up so fast. Yeah. Thank you, and I appreciate you calling us out and saying, and introducing yourself. It was good to meet you in person. And they had a great time too. My oldest did most of the filming. My youngest held one of the BAP signs, and Black Prophet Media. It ain't that. Anyway, but so first of all, what I'm not playing, because obviously I'm not going to play the whole show, but there was a really a couple points that I thought were really important to make, and then one point where I may disagree with Dr. Tawhid. We'll see. And I'll pull up a bit of criticism that I continue to get. I think, again, mistakenly, but and then anything you all want to rap about for a while, we can rap about. And if anybody wants to jump in the studio, I'll put the link in the chat. They can jump in and join the conversation that way as well. But one quick point that I wanted to highlight that Dr. Tawhid brings up that I thought was really important is that in talking about reparations for Black people here in the United States, he brought up the recent and currently happening bank bailout and pointed out the important point that this bailout is occurring without the use of taxpayer money. So so by the way, so yesterday on Earn Your Liberation, I did not have it in it. I was not right. That I thought bailouts were not occurring for those who were beyond the $250,000 threshold. Diallo was right in bringing up the banning or the lift of that. And then Dr. Tawhid, of course, added to all of that conversation by going into detail about what these banks are and were and why they're being bailed out. So it's a fantastic conversation. But he brings up the point that they're being bailed out without the use of taxpayer money. The money's just being created by the Federal Reserve. And then he says when it comes to reparations for Black people, they could do the same thing. And then they get into the parts of the conversation I'm going to play 2 clips of. And this first one, you don't see Jackie on camera. Her camera started glitching, so I just cropped it. So we're only seeing Dr. Tawhid. I think I did it that way for this. So no offense to Jackie, but the glitching was the popping in and out on the camera was maybe not entirely seizure inducing, but it was not, enjoyable to watch. So let's check this out. This clip here, and then go from there.
There are a lot of layers here. There's a lot of complexity in this. I'm going to start prior to this. There is something like a $97,000 a year income payment for 250 years.
Okay, my bad.
That's another thing. Well, the first time I saw that, which was a couple of months ago, my first response.
So the question Jackie was asking, and what Dr. Tawhid starts talking about is in terms of, so as I said a minute ago, sorry about the audio issue. Is that, so as I said, he was
what
talking.
We need, what would be a equitable reparations payment? There is something like a $97,000 a year income payment.
Now I got to find the spot where I had it. Anyway, the clip was about, the question was about the San Francisco reparations bill that was passed. And this is, so, okay, as I said, he's already said earlier that we don't need taxpayer money to pay reparations because taxpayer money wasn't used for the bank bailout. And yes, to one of the points I saw brought up in the chat, I don't see any difference between this and MMT, but I don't think I don't recall them talking about necessarily in the context of a labeled MMT. He was just pointing out that the Fed just, did this. And then
one of them.
And then the question turned to the San Francisco city reparations bill. And I think what he says here is very interesting.
Broke, poor, and oppressed, if any of it works. So this response from the NAACP,
San Franciscoan who qualified as a descendant of slave, $5 million, right? And then there is something like a $97,000 a year income payment for 250 years.
Okay.
That's another thing. Well, the first time I saw that, which was a couple of months ago, my first response was designed to fail.
Really?
There's no way San Francisco can do this. The estimate is that it would cost every white San Franciscoan about $660,000. That's how much you would have to tax them to pay this bill.
Oh wow.
That's not going to happen. for if only for the reason that every white San Franciscoan doesn't have 660,000.
Right.
You know, but you know, and so and in fact, not only is it designed to fail, I think it's irresponsible because it is a payment that it's almost designed to antagonize white folks and who may be in favor of reparations to say no. If that's what you're going to do, I'm opposed to it. So from a just simply a finance and economics position, it's designed to fail because the city of San Francisco cannot pass a law to have that happen because they don't have the money in the treasury to do this. Now, the city of San Francisco can't create dollars. They don't have a Federal Reserve.
Right.
The Federal Reserve could do the 5 million, but that's way above, I think, the estimates that reasonable economists, I'll mention my colleague Sandy Darren, would make in terms of what we need, what would be a equitable reparations payment. And Darity, and also I support this method of estimation, is that there is a wealth gap between the average white person and the average Black person.
Mm-hmm.
That wealth gap is there because of oppression prior to emancipation and since emancipation. I argue that if Black folks had, if the history where Black folks had come to this country voluntarily, a different history, and there was no discrimination, we would be as wealthy as they would. We're as smart as they are. We're as hardworking. And so
so that was one thing I disagreed with, in part because to the extent, and they don't really linger on this point, but to the extent I understood what was being said, yeah, if you take away oppression, there's a number of flaws with that. See, this is why it's so the thought experiment is so difficult for me. Without the exploitation and enslavement of Black people and the genocide of indigenous people, there is no development of what we now have of the United States and US capitalism. So just saying Black people work as hard as white people and we would have as much money as them doesn't make any sense, because because we would have to have exploited and enslaved someone else to develop along the same lines. The other obvious problem with that is that, again, under even white supremacist capitalism, where white people are given a leg up over everyone else, white people still don't have collectively it all good. There's still a problem with inequality among white people within capitalism. Again, the biggest critic of capitalism was white in Marx. So that part didn't track for me. The part about what he said initially about San Francisco not being able to pay tracks very well, and so that it being a project designed to fail tracks very well. And then he explains why it's designed to fail. And I think what he says here I think it's about to be here, is really, really on point.
The estimate, the difference, let's say, of 170,000 average white wealth to 17,000 average white wealth, that difference is a result of our oppression in this country. That is a reparations payment. That total comes to a total of $11 trillion that Darity says can be paid over 10 years, a little over $1 trillion, and the Fed it's been doing that with these financial institutions since 2008. It's been shoveling more than $1 trillion a year to them. So right. it would be and so that's my first critique of the San Francisco situation. It's not going to happen because it can't happen. San Francisco doesn't have that kind of money. The NAACP, San Francisco NAACP response to that, my first impression was this was an organization looking for finance. So it's proposing that we set up these programs. Someone has to administer these programs. And the way these programs get administered is that the Black middle class who are connected get the jobs as the executive directors for these institutions,
Right.
provide jobs and education and whatever.
Message.
And the money that flows in goes out to them, to that class in our community. And after it's over, the community is in no better shape, maybe even worse shape than it was before. That's what I look at this as, a plea to the San Francisco. We know you don't have the 5 million for every Black folks. Just give us 5 million.
Just give us some.
5 million, and we'll set up a job program for you.
Now listen, that's called my boy. You know nothing about that.
That's bars, and you don't know anything about that. I love that point. So writ large, I think that is exactly what's happening. That whether it's the money grab from the corporations after George Floyd for financial literacy programs or whatever else, it's this Black capitalist, Black bourgeoisie money grab to say, yeah, we want reparations. And then when finally you decide whatever form of reparations is going to occur, we'll be the ones to administer it. And then you get, as I talked about a couple months ago in that episode of Atlanta, you get that panel of who's Black enough for reparations led by the Kevin Samuel types. And of course, they get their cut. So that was one thing I thought was really, really important. And I love that he made that point there. Let me pull up this other one here. And because this is where I saw my name come up, and we can talk about this. I'll play this, and then let me just get this set up here. Woo, woo, woo. Get that set up. Here
Are owed. That is just the United States and every other country in the world where we have been dropped off,
and that's the
throughout the diaspora.
About. Sorry about that.
Owe us. Period. That does not translate into power.
Right.
Revolution and overturning the capitalist system. That's where power comes from. But how do you frame, that conversation of the importance of reparations, the necessity of reparations, but also the necessity of political power and where they are connected or disconnected?
Yeah, I'm going to. I think about it in a way that I'll need to explain. I think that we will get reparations when we no longer need reparations. Now, what I mean by that, putting in the context of power, we will get reparations when we have the power to force it. That power to force it means we have to organize for that power to gain that power in order to then be powerful enough to force a reparations process. That means that we can't sit and wait for others to decide on how much they're going to owe us and make apologies and all that. All of that is important because that's the moral and ethical aspect of it, right? There has to be an acknowledgement of what was done. But politically, if we are continuing to waste our vote by, lockstep voting for one party or another, neither of these parties have our interests at heart. They have the interests of their donors at heart. If we organize and organize for improvement in education, improvement in health, and other kinds of things that we need to do before reparations, we will then generate the power that we can, force a vote on reparations and a payment of reparations. But that means that the political power in this case is something that we have to develop. We can't wait for others to pay us, and then we say, okay, now we have money, therefore we have power. And so we've had this debate in the Black community since the early 1900s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Between Du Bois, is symbolized by Du Bois and Washington. Is it better to have political power or economic power, or should we go for economic power or political power first? No, we have to do both.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do both. We have to develop
develop
political and economic power. And the fact that the NAACP, for example, going back to them, was started and had in its charter that it could not own land. NAACP could not use funds to buy land.
Wow.
That Harold Cruz calls that non-economic liberalism. It is a political fantasy that one could have political power without also having economic power. And so we have to understand that we have to have a political economic response to this growing of power. That takes organization, it takes planning, and then we have to step forward one step at a time towards a goal. That goal is a community goal, and part of the community, the civil rights organizations, leaders are not, they're part of the community, so they have a say in this, but they're not all the community.
I apologize for all of you watching. My camera is apparently possessed. It's decided that it wants to revert to 90s laser disc issues here. Have no idea what's going on, but yeah, apologies. I think that when we
that was email. I'm not hard to reach. I makes what I like at gmail.com. Sure. But well, so now I can't remember if it got fully to the part where because at one point he talks about Harold Cruz and Harold Cruz's call for saying that you can't get political power without economic power first. And then that caused one of the viewers here, word from the point, said, not according to Dr. Ball. Tell that to Dr. Ball, the anti-wealth creator. And so I thought, and then someone, right, and then Everything is Politics says, I wish Dr. Ball was part of the convo. Would love to hear his takes once again. So this is me just jumping into the conversation. And again, with all respect to Dr. Tauheed, to the extent we may disagree here, all respect due to the late Harold Cruz and anyone else, there is no wealth creation. There is no economic parity. There is no catching up economically without political power. I also stand on the idea that we don't need money. First, let me just say to that criticism, I'm not anti-wealth. I'm not anti-wealth creation. Maybe. Let me clarify. I'm anti the idea that there is a way to generate wealth without political power. I'm anti the idea that the way to deal with the economic inequality, the material inequality, the whatever inequality that we suffer is through wealth creation. That's not how I am anti that. And I am also ultimately anti the way wealth for anyone in this world is created in this world. In other words, I'm anti the process that creates the wealth. All of the wealth, even if it's all ends up in black hands, is currently created through exploitation, violent, repressive exploitation. So I am anti that. So, but popularly, to the extent that there is this criticism of me, it is this idea that I am somehow opposed to Black people having money. And that simply means you're not reading my work, you're not watching with any competence or effort any of these constant programs that I and we are producing here. And you're not being an honest interlocutor. Okay. As it pertains to this particular conversation, though, I am not. I am arguing that we cannot have wealth without political power. No one has developed wealth that way. So I am also opposed to the idea that we can only organize politically if we have money. I think, again, that's part of the mythology that in some way is attached to my work around buying power and others in their work around Black capitalism. So, because what I think ends up happening is when anyone hears me say political power, they think what they hear me saying is developing a political campaign within mainstream electoral politics within the two-party system we currently have, in which we need X amount of dollars to get people on TV and to do this and to do that, and therefore we can't compete unless we have that money. Well, we can never compete. That was what the whole Citizens United thing was about, was allowing corporations to endlessly fund publicly and through dark money all the politics that they want. We're never going to catch up to Exxon and to Coke and to whoever. I was going to say the Koch brothers, but it's just brother. We're never going to catch Elon. We're never going to catch whoever. Sam Bankman-Fried and all of them. Is one of the things I thought was interesting about the whole thing with him was that he admitted to funneling money to both parties, popularly to the Democrats, but under the table to the Republicans. So we're just not catching up that way. But that's not what I'm saying. And that's not what I'm advocating. We can come back and talk later again at some other time about the after party concept. I'm not advocating that. What I'm advocating is the development of existing organizations, the development of other kinds of movements, the infinite options available to organized communities engaged in clear struggle for political power, not a campaign, for political power. That is the ability to define phenomena and have it act in a desired manner, as Dr. Huey P. Newton said. So that has to be left vague because those are things that have to be developed off of YouTube channels. But that's what I'm talking about. And I think we can do that without money or without the amounts of money people think that we need. Anyway, and I think that's sort of becomes a scapegoat and something that, So again, my argument around buying power is not that I'm against Black people having money. It's that I'm against the argument that Black people getting money is a solution. Okay. Okay. All right, that's it. That was it. That was all I really wanted to. That was all I wanted to. So that said, I will put the studio link in the chat if anybody wants to jump here. Otherwise, I will start to look in the comments. By the way, we left early from the rally because I just me and just not able to do it. And so I look forward to hearing what else goes on. And it was good to see folks. It was good to get that vibe again. But I will say it was kind of wild. First of all, Jackie now gets the Kamau Franklin Award for not mentioning BPM when on the podium. So we'll have to. I look forward to an entire week of getting at Jackie and giving her the Kamau. But what was it? Oh, when Brian Becker, who, despite some people's political amnesia of late, has been doing this for, at least 20, 25 years. When he says that we're going to move on and we're going to go and then we're going to march and then we're going to go to the such and such church and we're going to hear another set of speakers, highlighted by Noam Chomsky, I was like, oh, no. Oh. And this is no disrespect to Noam. We have many disagreements at this point, but mad respect to the man who, as I was talking about with my daughters today, long before adjacent to his political career, revolutionized the study of linguistics. He, deserves he's, got a crazy academic career on top of the activist career. And he's taken a lot of correct positions and helped a lot of us with our analysis along the way, but not anymore. And he is also, unfortunately, even in his youth, not the most engaging speaker. I've seen him speak on a number of occasions over the years, and it's just, like, oof. Anyway, Ava Chomsky is going to be joining us on Earn Your Liberation next Friday, though. Avi Chomsky, I should say. I think that's how you pronounce the name. Chomsky's child. Oh, I don't know why are they coming for me in the chat? I don't know. What else are they gonna do? I don't know. Is somebody coming for me in the chat? I don't know. Oh, you talking about from the thing? Yeah, I don't know why people come for me. I don't know. People, I think I haven't and Gannibal, I see you jumping in as soon as your devices get connected up. I'll and when you're ready, just let me know in the private chat. I don't first of all, Shaniqua, thank you for the. And is this the same Shaniqua from Morgan? From back in the not that much in the day, but is that you? Anyway, whoever, either way, peace to you. Thank you for the super chat. I don't know why they come for me to chat. Why wouldn't you? What else are they gonna do? What else is there to do in the chat but have a little fun at your boy's expense? What can I do? I just wish people's disagreements would be based on what I've actually said. That would be it. Like if they would do me the honor of getting my argument right and then outlining its failure, that would be great. But anyway. So Easy D, what happens when someone owes you money and they're just like, I'm not paying you? Because that's where we are. This isn't a question. So again, I'm not debating, is there a debt owed? The debt is infinite. The question is, what's likely to occur here. And that was, look, that is one area where I really think we do need to listen to people like Norman Finkelstein. When he talks about what happens with reparations, if people want to keep saying, let's do what the Jews do, let's do what the Jews do, the Jews got reparations, the Jews got reparations, then look at the history of Jews. See, that this is always what is so frustrating. I'm not saying you're doing this, but this is so frustrating in general with that whole thing of look at other communities. We don't even study what these other communities do or have done or what their histories are or what their current conditions are. But what Finkelstein says about this thing of reparations, and he elaborates in the new book, it's just unfortunate it's covered with all the other stuff, is that an elite group of Jews take advantage of the condition of Jews and rip off other Jews and walk away with as much money as possible, leaving Jews who actually suffered in the Holocaust with very little. When you go back, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but when you go back and look at Norman Finkelstein, particularly if you go back and read the actual Holocaust industry book, and you go through both of his parents. His mother was the only survivor of her entire family. His father was the only survivor of his entire family. So the Finkelsteins, like, there was no cousins and uncles, and they have no. And the mother and the father got ultimately like pennies as part of the reparations package. So his warning is you could say you're going to get reparations, but even the money you get isn't going to go but to a handful of people. And just as Dr. Tawhid was saying in this piece here, that's what most of the people calling, I think, whether they're doing it on purpose or it's some sort of side or unconscious thing, a lot of people who have been doing this for a long time and have made this their career, I have to think are at this point, they have to be aware that they're more likely to get the 5 million that should go to each individual person, as Professor Tawhid was saying, in one payment to one organization that they run, than they are to actually get all the money that each individual should get. And then, so I think there's a lot of hustling going on here. So it's not that I'm not unaware or don't agree with the debt is owed. It's just that, yeah, they are. I mean, all these programs, I mean, and what's funny, I remember when I went back and looked at that, I mean, it's, had to upgrade. You don't like my new, it's like, if I can't have a window, anyway. Oh man, that thing with the Holocaust industry was deep. I should go back and read the whole thing again. We should all go back and read the whole thing again. So that's what my issue is. If we yeah, anyway. And if we want, I guess Gannibal couldn't get stuff together. Anyway. Yeah, that book was really good. This new one I can't rock with. Anyway. All right, if nobody wants to jump in and join the conversation or has any particular questions or critiques, we can wrap it up. I just wanted to respond to that part of it. And that would have been my 2 cents. I mean, I think we need to get offline and into some closed spaces and really build some organization and you know, talk about what we really want to do. And then in the interim, part of the survival programs, I do think could include stuff like the after party, making different, more aggressive approaches on the electoral system. I mean, I think we should start. We got it. We should test it on my village board run, which doesn't require any party affiliation, by the way, which is great. Oh, that's not you from, okay. Glad I caught that. I forgot I asked the question. Yeah, so okay, so the figure I remember was that the Japanese got 20,000 each after they lost, and the value of the businesses and the land that they lost in California was billions. So even if I'm right and they got the bigger figure of $20,000, and again, I don't know all the, I would definitely have to go back and look at the history, but my suspicion is that that has more also as much to do with the fact that they also, not only did they suffer the detention camps and the loss of business and land, their homeland got 2 nuclear bombs. And something tells me the post-World War II deal that was part of the what do they call it, the whatever that agreement, it'll as soon as, anyway, that I'm positive there was some arrangement made. Maybe I read this and I'm just not remembering it. Maybe I'm making this up in my head. I don't know, but it seems to make perfect sense that part of the post agreement would have been, look, we dropped these bombs on you, and you know, we're going to help you rebuild in the way we want you to rebuild, so that you do for us in that region of the world what we want Japan to be. And you know, we'll throw your residents on our land a couple of dollars, just to ease the. But nobody was, you know, made whole, and nobody was changed into some. You do all know this is green screen, right? I feel like I just want to make sure. I feel like irony has been lost, including the proper definition of that word. And you all do know in that Alanis Morissette song, not one single example she gives in that song is actually the proper definition of irony. Not one. I went through it a couple years ago with my daughters to prove the point. We watched the video and made fun of the whole thing, which is the reason why I think nobody uses the word properly anymore, because of that song. And not one rain on your wedding day is not irony. God damn it. It's bad luck. Maybe it's a paradox. It's a complication. It's a concern. Maybe it's good for you. Maybe you like that, but it's not irony. Anyway, so sometimes I feel like it's necessary to point out explicitly so that the joke, I feel like, might get lost. Anyway. Oh, population wise. Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, they didn't make any money, but they didn't make any money. He discussed the Japanese issue. Damn, my memory is garbage, because I did watch that whole thing. I don't remember that part. Anyway. Right on, right on. Welcome back. Welcome back. Sometimes. Yeah, so that was my thing. Now the song itself would have been ironic if she did that on purpose. But I don't think she did that on purpose. That's 440 chess and all that. I'm not saying she's a dummy, but I'm not giving her all that credit now. I'm not. I think she thought she wrote a good little cute little song and everybody just believed it. And we're stuck with people not knowing what that word means ever since. But I could be wrong too. You know, it don't really matter. What difference does it make? It's just one of my little hangups. I can't stand it. Because it's not irony. Yeah, and what I'm saying is, look, I mean, and people, we always have to remember, Japan has been allowed to be whatever it has been allowed to become by the rest of the world. When I mentioned the other day when Eugene was on the show to talk about the rally today, and I mentioned Brian Becker's discussion of the Communist Manifesto, which everybody should go back and watch, and we should all go back and read. He points out that, which is always left out of the discussion when people want to talk about the failures of the Russian Revolution, that 14 different countries invaded invaded Russia after the 1917 revolution, including the United States. So, in other words, if you start to develop in a way that they don't want you to develop, there are penalties that you have to withstand, which they did. Japan, after 2 nuclear bombs, they're not going to be withstanding anything. So what they've become is, yes, up to their own ingenious capabilities, but also what has been allowed for them to become in this post World War II era. So yeah, I heard a little bit of that too. In his answer. That there was a little bit of Black people have to be in control of our businesses and our communities. And my question always comes back to, and I thought Jackie addressed it indirectly by reminding us of the problems of capitalism and colonialism, but that's always the issue. It's which is why I pointed out at the beginning when Dr. Tawhid, again, as I heard it, says, where Black people would be as rich as white people if it were not for the oppression. But then that means what? That we would also have a whole bunch of poor white folks that exist in this situation? Or I don't know, maybe I misunderstood what he was saying. It was more or less a passing comment anyway, but he did call it vulture capitalism, but capitalism is vulturistic. So that's why I would say so I'm not saying he was doing this, but that's why I would say the other day about the Bernie Sanders thing. I don't like we don't need all the Uber capitalism and crony capitalism and advanced stage capitalism and Malcolm was right. Show me a capitalist, I'll show you a bloodsucker. Yeah, his reference was specifically to venture capitalism, was vulture capitalism. And that's why I was trying to think like that is Dr. Tawhid's reference to vulture capitalism was in response to someone bringing up venture capitalism. And my thing is, it don't matter. Venture, vulture, crony, advanced, et cetera, et cetera. Capitalism is itself vulturistic. I think so. That they think, oh, capitalism would work if it didn't have this prefix on it. Or if we call it corporatism, so. Anyway, hey, look, so this will be an ongoing conversation. Reparations, buying power, people misreading, not reading, mishearing, misrepresenting me, and being and dropping criticism. I think I'm gonna have to now. And now I'm losing all my excuses. We've now got the situation is changing. I have access to my full basement library, so I can find that book. I would like to read it again. I thought it was, I loved that book. Yeah, all of that. Yeah. Yeah. Who else was just talking about regulatory capture? Oh, Michael Hudson. And by the way, for folks following, I've been in touch with William Black, professor. No, that's not who I've been in touch with. Wrong. I'm thinking of the wrong thing. Sorry about that. William Anderson. Sorry. And his book, The Nation on No Map. So we're going to set up our interview, and we're going to try to set it up so that hopefully Coco will be around that day and can join us for the second half. He's talking about doing first half, just talking about the book, second half responding to Coco's criticism and anyone else's. So it's good stuff. Looking forward to that. Yeah, maybe it's in there. Maybe the original PDF is printed out in one of those binders. Let's see. Japan and South Korea are the way they are because of their relationship with the West and the US. Walter Deming taught them production. There's a prize in his name. Yeah. Yes. Have you? Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, I mean, that's true. And they're not going to pay it. So somebody at the rally today was dressed up in some grotesque outfit, mimicking oh my God, I can't believe I just blanked on his name. I can't believe I just blanked on his name like that. Oh man, I must be exhausted or something. Anyway, what's his name? Oh my God. I'm looking at his face too. Anyway, the point I was going to make is that my daughters were asking me about who this man is, and we were talking about it, and I was just giving what I could off the top of my head, and I was saying how this guy was involved, as he was the Secretary of State for one administration. What was he? The head of national security for another administration. Was supportive behind the scenes of so many different presidencies. And I was telling him that their grandmother always hated him because he never lost his German or Austrian accent, despite being in the United States all these years. And she always hated that he kept that what for her was a disgusting sounding accent from a disgusting group of people. And that she always lamented that he was himself a Jew and making Jews look bad. Jesus Christ. Was it Kissinger? Thank you. Of course. Kissinger. Good God. I knew somebody would get it. And yeah, Kissinger the frog. Right. So my daughters were like, who in the hell, what was going on with that? And so we had this whole thing, and I was like, and my point was like, the point that I'm getting at now is that he represents an ongoing structure of power in this country that does not care. Overthrow this government, assassinate this one, undercut that one, ruin this one, do this to that one. They don't care. So yeah, the US owes everybody reparations. They don't care. So that's why I'm saying these appeals to Congress people and these sort of, again, I can't help but think that there's I think Dr. Tawhid is onto something with that there's something to me shady. And that's why reparations has never been a key issue among real grassroots organizations. It's just not. Yeah, we were talking about that. I was telling him, like, he can't even go to France or wherever. Like, you know. Anyway. So oh man. Oh no. Solely Walker. Hold on, I got something for you. Oh, doesn't that look so refreshing? Oh, look at the bubbles glistening off the can. Ah. Oh. And this thing about, I only care about Black people in the US, like that's some sort of powerful rallying cry. And what you don't realize is you're literally undercutting your own political strength. We saw him today. Omali Yeshitela spoke today, and his famous intro to Dead Prez's first album is speaking directly to the reverse hashtag argument. When he says the hunter puts the knife in the snow and covers the blade and puts a little lamb's blood on it, and then the wolf comes and starts licking the blade and thinks it's eating a good meal, and it's really drinking its own blood, and it chokes on its own blood, or it bleeds itself out and kills itself. And the hunter doesn't even have to fight it. That to me is the perfect metaphor for the reverse hashtag argument and this bravado of I only care. You just licking that lamb. You thinking you getting that good meal, that good, that super black meal, and your whole political movement is bleeding out into the snow, waiting for you to fall dead on top of it. It's not hot. And people have got to, it is not a sign of weakness to say that Black people are part of a world community and an African diaspora and deserve to be seen as such and work, blah, 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 blah. That is not a sign of weakness. Internationalism, Pan-Africanism is not weakness. It is, even if it's done selfishly, it's tactically appropriate. But this idea, we're just going to go and appeal to this government. So part of Dr. Tawhid's point was they just created billions and trillions out of nothing and gave it to these bankers and Peter Thiel types, who apparently was, he said, one of the investors in this bank. They made it out of nothing. It didn't take tax revenue. It didn't do anything. That's political power. What political strength, and I don't mean political power in the sense of they bought off a politician, they raised their money and they circulated their dollar and they started small businesses and pooled their resources and bought off a politician, and that politician then created money out of nothing with the Federal Reserve and gave it to them. That's not what they did. Political power, by that I mean the ability to define phenomena and have it act in a desired manner. I mean, that means you have to make the society incapable of not doing it. And that doesn't require the kind of money that doesn't require political campaigns necessarily or only. And it requires, again, I know it's scary. I'm the one who's emitting it all the time. And I watch people in the chat and in these comments get at me sometimes for admitting that, as if they're not scared, or as if they're really, really confronting power and therefore don't need to, and therefore, you know, are overcoming some or non-existing fear, or whatever. But if you go back and read some of the counterintelligence program documents, just as an example, and read what was making, who were the biggest threats listed, none of them were engaged primarily in electoral politics. And electoral politics was never the fear that was being, nobody said, you know what, Kwame Ture is scaring us because he's blindly getting people to vote. And he's telling people to circulate their dollar and start small businesses. That is exactly what Richard Nixon said to say to them, so that they could literally redefine Black power away from Kwame Ture, who he named directly. I don't want Black power to be defined by the Stokely Carmichaels. I want it to be defined as business and electoral politics.
They want to have Black businesses and not just go to the white businesses. And they should have.
So, and in that Guardian story that came out last year, they didn't say, hey, you know what? We need to stop Kwame Ture because he's spreading the circulation of the Black dollar. They said because he's spreading Pan-Africanism and scientific socialism. They didn't target anybody whose primary work was electoral politics. And when it came to Dr. King, he became a threat to national security, as they said in their own papers, Washington Post and elsewhere, when he was going to redistribute people's rent money away from landlords, when he was going to set up permanent camps and marches and rallies that went beyond one day and blocked the normal flow of business. In other words, when people started moving in directions that threatened the normal, consistent, routine mechanism of day-to-day US business, that's what made them the target. Because that, to me, suggests that's where that direction is where the answers are. It's not, it's, and anyway. So I just don't think we need to, and there was nothing, like Dr. King wasn't saying, oh man, we just got to raise millions of more dollars. And despite the lies, I have to assume that they're lies. Maybe, okay, the routinely incorrect statements made by people like Maggie Anderson and others who keep saying Dr. King knew business was the Black business community was the backbone of the civil rights struggle. None of that is real. So that's why I'm saying, like, anyway, that's why I keep saying we don't need. It's not that he was wrong. He was saying that. He was saying that specifically to get people to not talk about other forms of power, because he knew that this would never become powerful. That's what he was saying. So he was wrong in the sense that he was saying telling Black people, yeah, go get your businesses. That's what they should do. Because what he's saying is that will never work. It will never make Black people threatening. It will remove us from having to worry about the Stokeleys and all these other lunatics. And they'll never catch up. And then a handful of Black people will make some money and permanently replicate themselves to regurgitate the message that you don't need anything other than what that is. That's all. That's what I'm saying. So, yeah. He did create, what's up, James? He did create a division for it. And it turns out that it's pretty dope. One of my closest friends, both of our fathers have been written about in the same book, being associated with SNCC at one or another time. And yeah, so that was that one particular overlap, which I thought was pretty dope. But his father also was involved with one of these commissions or divisions representing the Black business community. But and I talk about it in the initial Buying Power book. But even as I said there, their call was, what they were advocating for was more than what's being advocated today. So in other words, the Black capitalist community isn't even going as hard as that group was doing, because what that group was doing was saying that the federal government, because they understood that business doesn't happen, wealth doesn't get created without the federal government, their whole point was to have the Nixon administration invest what would be the equivalent today of billions of dollars into the Black business community. Nixon never did it, but that was their call. They weren't saying, hey, Negroes, circulate your dollar, and it's your fault that we're broke and you don't support us and that's why you're broke. They were saying, no, maybe it's a conservative move relative to what we like around here, but relative to what
the Court's top thought leader,
to what those folks are advocating today, it was revolutionary, because they were going straight to the president and saying, look here, enough already. You want us to have Black businesses? You have to invest in them, because we don't have, and they didn't say it this way, but we don't have the head start that your businesses have of genocide, enslavement, the homestead capturing of all the good land. We didn't have all of that. So now you have to invest in our businesses. I don't even think Clinton wanted SNCC to go the way of 1964. No, he didn't. And again, my favorite thing is when I read, and this is, again, methodologically, I think I should read, I've always thought I should read more poetry and read more biographies. But when you, or memoirs, but when you read John Lewis's, he says, when I became the head of SNCC, when I went all over Africa, everywhere we went, every leader we met with had already met with Malcolm and told us, if you're anywhere to the right of Malcolm X, we don't want to deal with you. And Lewis acknowledged, I am to the right of Malcolm X. And it was the most honest and beautiful thing I've ever, I remember, it was like, yep. So anyway. Oh boy, oh boy. Yeah, I mean, I really do think, whatever happened to that dissertation that dude was supposed to be working on? Anyway, I'd like to see, yeah. Normally dominant culture doesn't understand the people they suppress. Men less understand women versus women understand men because they create culture. How do white people manipulate so well? So my initial argument would be they make up for whatever they don't understand with billions and billions of dollars and decades of research. Again, the entire field of communications, Chris Simpson's work, and it's not the only work, but it's just my favorite. And I happen to like the little nerdy guy, and what was that other book we were just using in one of my classes? It does a good job with this as well from a slightly different perspective. But the point is, the whole field of communication studies is basically really, really at its core about just that question. And really, I remember, you know, when Dr. Clark and all them used to make the point about Napoleon didn't just conquer Egypt with the military. He brought his botanists and his anthropologists, and, you know, he was like, study these people. We about to conquer these people. We about to rule these people. I need to know what, you know, I need to know how to permanently manipulate them. And one way to do that is to know who I'm dealing with. But that would be my answer. How do white people manipulate so well? That's it. They put in work. Like I have respect for the work. I mean, I respect what they did. I hate it, but I do respect it. I absolutely respect it because I mean it's the Yasha Levine book, obviously, the Surveillance Valley book, but this one here, Timothy Glander, sorry. Dang, sometimes these Kindles, boy, I have a hard time just getting the cover pulled up. Can I just get the cover? Yeah. This one here, The Origins of Mass Communication Research During the American Cold War, Timothy Glander. Because that's the context that it came up in. I mean, the field emerges in as a part of the Cold War, and part of what they were doing is we need to study people. We got, again, how do we make white people white people? They were still trying to finish the project that was never complete under the initial colonial settling of this country. Shout out to Roberto Duran. Maybe somebody's coming home. I don't know, or maybe, you know, I don't know. Could be anything with that dog. But yeah, I think somebody's home. But anyway, but yeah, how do you turn Europeans into white people? How do you turn Negroes into black citizens, not revolutionary Africans, but just black, you know, citizens? How do you turn, you know, how do you do all of that? And then how do you manipulate? That's why communication studies is itself a composite of sociology and psychology and philosophy and sociology. I think I said that already. And all these other different fields, because they were like, give us everything to figure out how to manipulate these fools. Man, he's getting it. I don't see anybody at the door. I don't know. That's right. The dog is named Roberto Duran. Hands of stone, you know what I'm saying? Mano de pierna. Yeah, man. Although, as I've said before, I was rooting for Sugar Ray. So it's always a little bit when that gets brought up in the family discussions. I'm like, But I was rooting for Hagler against Sugar Ray. So, and I think Hagler was done wrong. But nobody was done wrong more than Sweet Pea Whitaker versus Cesar Chavez. Speaking of the black and brown conflict, that was just a mess. Anyway, but I don't like boxing. Not for real. Anyway, all right, folks. I think we're good. Are we good? Nobody wanted to jump up here. I'll put the link in one more time and then I can get out of here. I think we'll have a new GIU Monday morning. Oh, there are animals out there fighting. Yeah, and those little foxes sound like children screaming. It took a while to get used to that. It's spooky. Last I checked, that called order of operations. Actually, how are we of any use to anyone else unless we can help ourselves first? There is part of it is that there is no helping ourselves first. No group does that. See, this is part of what I keep saying. There is no group that just on its own did whatever you think that they've done. So that's part of it. The other part of it is no other group is in the particular situation that Black people are in this country. Black people can't do what other groups have done, even to the extent that you think and that anyone could be said to have that be right about those groups doing something that changed their conditions in any meaningful way. And I don't know what else to do. I don't know why, when I present the argument of the enemy as clear as it is in Richard Nixon, why that isn't more effective. I mean, I get it. I do get it, but I don't know. Sometimes I struggle with that. I don't know what else to say other than this. There is nothing Black people can do by themselves that will fix this situation. So I don't know what I don't see it. I mean, again, even like what move of the reverse hashtag movement does not require white Americans and the state? So what is it that you think is happening by yourself or ourselves? What's happening? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what else to say other than or I guess let me just go back to what my new question said of my new approach is. What evidence do you have that tells you Black people by themselves can fix whatever problem you think can be is the whatever problem, any problem? What evidence do you have for that? What is that argument based on? The popular appeal to reparations is an appeal to white people. And that's why I played that clip from Dr. Tawhid at the beginning. Even in the context of San Francisco, white San Franciscans who are above average of income and wealth in this country, they're not going to give away, what was it, $600,000? And if you want to have a movement where they create the money that becomes reparations out of the Federal Reserve, well, what political movement is going to make that happen to the tune of $14 trillion? I think that was the figure that he quoted from Sandy Darity. Where is that going to happen? And what sovereign autonomous Black movement is going to do that? How does that work? I mean, really, if I'm reading this in the right ordering and timing, that's I mean, what data is being used for this? Yeah. And it involved a lot of public policy, and it involves a lot of exploitation. Do you know when I was 15 years old, I was in San Francisco and I went to one of those places where you can see how they make the fortune cookie? Even before becoming vegan, it almost made me not want them anymore. It was a sweatshop of mostly old Chinese people bent over machines, folding the dough and doing all that kind of putting the paper and doing all that stuff that becomes the fortune cookie. I was like, what is this? And then you go to Chinatown and what do you see? A lot of the same exploitative conditions of workers. They may all be Chinese. And then what has that meant for the overall condition of Chinese people? And to what extent did that not involve public policy and political power and a country back at home that wields its influence in a variety of ways? I mean, which again, by the way, if you want to have black communities, that this was the whole point. Wouldn't it, Malcolm and others made this point too, wouldn't it be great if the entire continent of Africa, or at least 2 or 3 or even one African nation with some sort of strength, was back over there saying, you better look out for these black folks over there, let them set up their businesses, or we might do something else over here. Wouldn't that be nice? I mean, that's the whole point of the international relationships and the Pan-Africanism. Man, Roberto is getting it in. I am a vegan. I am a vegan. Yeah, Asian-owned businesses are doing well. You know how I know that they can't be doing that well? Because so many of them are in black communities. And if those were black businesses, we would see intimately how unwell that they were doing. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's like it's a lot of non-evidence that people throw around. The only people who bring up Chinatowns as an example of what black people need have never actually spoken with or spent much time with people. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Go walk around and look at the Chinatowns. Look at how they actually function. I'm not. We keep thinking it's going to look like Wakanda, because Wakanda, apparently in Wakanda, nobody cleans anything. Nobody's like, we never see anything being produced. We just saw a bunch of happy, good-looking people walking around well-dressed. But who was making those clothes? Who was delivering those clothes? Who was turning the raw material into the clothes? Was it all the latest technology? I mean, they needed to show that. So nobody was working because of the plant power. Nobody had to work. Yeah, Lucretia was down there today. What's up, Lucretia? Yeah. What's up? Yeah, it's I was telling my daughters, like, it's always a little awkward now to meet people in person for the first time, to meet them behind a mask or without a mask for the first time, or it's just different now. It's just a little different. It's going to take some time. I feel you on that. It's a little awkward. Seeing people's entire torso. It could get a little weird. It's like, what? Man, all right, my man. Oh, wait. Oh, Tafari, my bad, man. My bad. Come back. Come on back. I don't know why I didn't see you. Hold on, I put the link back in there. I would say the same for you, Ricky. I bet you get as much of that as I do. But Dr. Ball, can we have reparations and we can have reparations and Pan-Africanism. They don't cancel each other out. Again, I don't disagree with that. I'm simply saying, first of all, if we had Pan-Africanism and socialism, reparations would be moot as an issue. It would just be moot. But what I'm also arguing is that I actually think reparations is being encouraged as a movement to replace movements like Pan-Africanism, socialism, scientifics, whatever, all those versions of other isms. That's why I think more people are willing to have that be part of the discussion. That's why I think Hulu would be willing to have a 1619 project that does not reference or include Gerald Horne, despite his contributions to the project, but does feature Sandy Darity, despite his lack of contribution to the project. So that's why I think that's in part what I think. But anyway, Tafari, what's up, my man? Welcome. You coming in audio only, just making sure. Welcome. What's up?
Yeah, I'm in Chicago on these freeway streets. So yeah, I'm gonna stay among the realm of the living as long as I can at least. So yeah, I won't be on where you can see me, but you can hear me. How you doing, brother?
I'm as good as could be expected. I'm doing better than my dog, apparently.
Hey, look, your dog's out there saying no mas, no mas,
Yeah,
no mas.
he's down there getting mad at somebody. But anyway.
Right. So yeah, no, I'm peace to the chat. Appreciate you taking the time on a Saturday evening to come, kick it with us, cool folks. Missed a good part of the early part of the conversation, but I do think that part of what I did catch, a few things came to mind that I would love to share with the listening audience. One, I would definitely encourage and invite people to go to imixwhatilike.org and check out the BTAC, Black the Africana Collective series of videos and conversations on reparations. I think the points that particularly you and Keto made then, stand just as strong from what is that now, like 18 months ago, as they do today. And so I think that they're like, so often folks are looking for like quick, easy microwave methodologies to get out of this set of situation and circumstances. And it's like, no, the systems and strategies of racial capitalism, white supremacist domination, so on and so forth. Yeah, like you said, like we respect it, but it's not like divine. Like it can be changed, it can be destroyed, it can be dismantled. It has been. It's not just a fact of life, and while it is a big part of the moment and the time, and it reminds me of when earlier today, my wife and I, and shout out to my wife, we were out at a community conversation on the far south side of Chicago, dealing with Black couples and community, and these kinds of conversations. And I know I'm gonna sound like a hater, and I am, and I also appreciate these kinds of events going on and people making earnest attempts at trying to figure this thing out for our folks. And so this conversation that you're having reminds me of that one, because there was, the conversation was basically around like relationships and Black couples and relating to each other. And there were 4 folks who were having, sharing their various perspectives. And I'm listening, taking notes on the conversation and discussion. And even sharing full transparency, like my wife and I are in the market for a couples therapist, and just like, because we see it as tuning as opposed to crisis management. A lot of times people run to get help when they think something is wrong, and it's like, you might have considered that 6 months ago. But nonetheless, I'm hearing people talk about various tactics and strategies and attempts and perspectives about how to deal with interpersonal conversation and communication. One person had a really beautiful presentation about areas where interpersonal conflict can arise and strategies to deal with that. And I found myself sad and not surprised that capitalism was wholly absent from the conversation. And why I was saddened and not surprised is because, again, like, it's like this idea that we are the primary responsible parties for our interpersonal situations, and there's no relationship to the context with which we were born into or dealt with or caught or socialized into. And so a lot of times folks wonder why they end up getting caught in these kind of like similar parallel dynamics. I'm like, it's predictable, because there's a system with which we're socialized under. It's like what you talk about and others, the whole, we don't know who discovered the water, but we know it wasn't the fish. It's like, in that same vein, folks are like, I don't understand why we have money conversations that are frustrating. It's like, because of capitalism. And that is not a cover. That's an invitation to getting into what are, again, the socioeconomic and psychosocial dynamics that produce ideas about how people can, should, and must relate to each other, and not just in terms of their interpersonal relations, but in terms of the society at large. And it was just a really, like, I just found myself really frustrated, because I was like, again, here are solutions that don't solve, and again, they may provide some relief. So again, I'm not hating 1,000%, maybe like 900%. But I think kind of in that same conversation, like you're bringing up here, like, you know, conversations around reparations, freedom, sovereignty. It's like, yeah, no, we deserve all of that, and how we get and how we achieve that matters. You know, it's not something that you can just, you know, you can't just download freedom on your smartphone. You can't just sign up for liberation. It's like we have to participate with the time that we have in our lives towards, you know, this freedom making project. And, you know, like you said, like, it's like when someone owes you a debt and they decide that they ain't gonna pay it, what you gonna do? It's like, no, they've already told you who they are. They've already explained to you that not only are they not going to pay it, they want to take more. And so this idea that we are post-racial, post-oppression, post-capitalism, like, we ain't post nothing. It is active, it is ongoing, it is insidious, and we are capable of dealing with it. But we got to get on it. So yeah, no, just some of my very loosely put together thoughts in relation to what I heard you tapping in on a bit earlier, and just was jumping on. So since you had asked a few times, and I was like, well, if no one else is gonna jump on, I'm gonna jump in.
Nah, I appreciate it. You're always welcome. But have you or anyone seen the movie Triangle of Sadness?
I have not. Should I?
I think so. It not for anything racially or culturally, but the class question comes up, and it's an interest. I think the movie is fascinating. Don't be. I will say this, because we started watching it with the family the other day. Don't be thrown off by the way it starts.
Gotcha.
Embrace the discomfort and the confusion. That would be my suggestion. But the reason I'm asking is because part of the beginning of the film, and I'm not going to give anything away, is a couple's discussion about the role of money in their relationship. And all I kept thinking the first time I saw it, well, even the second time, was just what you're saying. The context is not part of the discussion. How can you? I don't want to give anything away, but how can either of them be saying what they're saying without this being thought of? So that's what it just made me think of the movie.
Nah, word. Yeah, exactly. And though I haven't gotten deep into it yet, so yeah, I'll check that out. That same piece was there was one person on the panel that and I know Diallo will love this. Someone was talking about, they were like, you know, how do you identify, all this kind of stuff, and someone was like I'm black, and then they were like, I'm human, and then I'm these other things. And I was like, man, like, I wish that I could just like parachute Josh Myers into this conversation, because it was like, again, like, we don't even question what we've been trained, let me say it like that. We've been trained to not even question what we've been conditioned to believe is normal. So, and healthy and appropriate and what have you. So it's like that same thing. How, like, does an quote unquote appropriate, healthy relationship between African peoples, and I mean that in all of the multiplicities of Africanness and blackness that exists. So it's also that kind of like singularization we need to push against. But it's like, you know, and not running to some, like, you know, past that, you know, everyone thinks they're right about. We'll run 10,000 years ago to Kemet, and I got a lot of love for Kemet. And we won't tend to like contemporary or even recent past discourses and conversations and thinking about how do we relate to each other in this thing we call existence. And so again, we just borrow, and I would probably say pretzel ourselves into these, you know, containers that have been set before us, again, due to this ongoing process and project of domestication, if you will, and disciplining. And then it's like, oh, well, how do we make it a little less painful? And it's like, that makes sense. We do deserve relief. We do deserve safety. We do deserve community, but not one born of accepting a palette of definitions that, like you're saying, that they themselves are part of to use the military terminology, the maintenance of effort to keep us contained within acceptable means of resistance, acceptable means of freedom, acceptable means of progressiveness. And like you're saying about the John Lewis piece, it's like, yeah, I also think about, you know, Amy Cesar's discourse on colonialism. It's like we gotta be comfortable recognizing like we're not having the same conversation, and we don't have to have the same conversations to be in solidarity, in community with each other. And I'm saying this across, racial lines in this specific context. It's like we don't have to be the same in order for us to be together. Matter of fact, it's our difference and our uniqueness that makes life worthwhile. So it's like I don't want to. I'm not a person that just happens to be painted brown. um, and I think the more comfort we generate in practicing being ourselves and exploring that, I think will also be the extent to which I think builds a lot on what Cabral's talked about. We got to be able to tell us apart. Like I don't want to be a part of the reverse. I don't even call it the reverse hashtag because they just lame. Like it's soda over here all day every day, and it's like no, we don't want a better position within this framework. Like we want this framework to be tossed into the dustpan of history. And if you're one of those healthy folks, maybe we can compost it. Like I remember this thing I saw a couple of weeks ago. Someone had in their front yard, it said trespassers will be composted. I was like, yo, that's good, that's funny. But yeah, man, it's like you said in that BTAC piece, it's like we deserve more than reparations. We deserve an entire civilizational break from the very things that made this conversation about reparations necessary. And I just wanted to again tap in and just like again say like you're right, and now it's like, yeah, how do we materialize that correctness in a way that's operative for our folks, so that we can have the lives, the community, the families that we want and deserve.
Right on.
All right, now we can talk about sports. Let's talk MLS. What you got?
Well, hold on. You don't have to leave. You don't have to leave, but let me let Yuri in here, who's been waiting to jump in the conversation. And while Yuri does that, and welcome, I'll drop the link in the chat if anybody else wants to jump in. They're welcome as well. But go ahead. What's up? How you doing? What's going on?
Dr. Ball, how's it going, my man? How's it going? But before I give my 2 cents, and I'm sorry that I completely missed the beginning of this live stream, but I just got out of doing a nearly 2-hour-long interview with a guest about Yugoslavia, about the history of Yugoslavia and stuff like that. So it once again, it was, I try my best to like do hour-long interviews, but I don't know. I'm just so fascinated by like the knowledge I'm getting. I love like I can't interrupt my guests. What can I say? So if it becomes like a 2-hour-long interview, like the Joe Rogan experience, yeah.
I hope it's not like a Joe Rogan experience, but I get your point.
Only in length, but not in content.
And just real quick, please do, everybody, if you can, you got some time to kill, or you got your media break, watch A Triangle of Sadness. And I'm very interested I'm going to watch it again, or, and I would like very much for us to at least, if nothing else, discuss what you think about the ending. Yeah, please check it out, and let the movie build, like let the movie emerge a little bit. Don't be discouraged. It's not gonna come at you directly. It's gonna bob and weave. It's not gonna.
I'm looking forward to watching this. But you also, before I ask a question, I wanted to ask you, which you liked the Irish movie. You claim, I think
Banshees of Inisherin, something like
that. Yes,
I love that movie.
Okay, so because I've not been interested in a lot of the movies that have been coming out of Hollywood since like the downfall of like Weinstein and so forth, and even though I wouldn't mind watching the movie The Whale by Darren Aronofsky with Brendan Fraser, that's just too much of a depressed fest for me. And like I already like deal with depressing subjects when I do 1+1. That once I'm done with like those very somber interviews on, anything and everything. I think that's why, like, nowadays, I think that's probably why, like, nowadays I listen to very lighthearted EDM music, or when I listen to hip hop music, it's more of like the kind of like romantic hip hop of like a Ja Rule or LL Cool J, or one of like
Ja
the more
Rule is romantic.
Yes, man, he was like the Romeo of hip hop for like a while, man. He did like all those love songs. And then 50 Cent had to come and like ruin his career with whatever stupid beef they had, like whenever the fuck,
Jay-Z still has the best line, I think, on 50 Cent. I'm about $1.
What the fuck is 50 cents?
Anyway, yeah.
And I have to say this. I was definitely Team Nas when Nas and Jay-Z had beef. But that being said, Jay-Z in the 90s, Jay-Z's music in the 90s and early 2000s, the peak is probably the Black Album. Even if you don't like Bling Bling Robert, you don't even like Jay-Z, but you can't deny that like Jay-Z's music was way more better and diverse back then compared to anything he's done now, which is just super commercial. And of course, his love affair with Black capitalism, and whatnot, and Beyonce also, bootlicker of the Democratic establishment and like, false feminism of a Clinton streak,
Listen, I mean, what am I supposed to do? Make myself born 20, 30 years later? I can't help it. Anyway.
Exactly. But
yeah, go ahead. My bad. Go ahead.
But anywho, I'm gonna watch. The Irish movie, because if you say it's a good film, and if you're recommending it, then okay, then I really am gonna, I'm gonna try to find a headspace and
I appreciate that, and I'm open to be. Obviously, let me know if any of my picks don't work. But I'm telling you, I don't care about action and violence unless it serves the story. And I don't like it when it replaces a story. So I don't have a problem if there's no action and explosion and violence. If you get a good story with good writing and good acting, that in a Sheeran movie, I thought that movie was off the chain. I'm gonna watch it again. The Triangle of Sadness movie is more, I don't know. It's like I'm more fascinated by what it says about class, and then the ending. I'm very interested to see what people think about the ending. I love the way it ends, and it gives you a little like Sopranos vibe on the ending a little bit.
Interesting. Okay. Well, speaking of movies, now I have you on my personal Facebook, and I really appreciate. I really appreciated our last interview. I love all my interviews with you, but I really like if someone was to say to me, "Who's Jared Ball?" I would give them our very first interview, but I would also give them our most recent interview where we continue talking about Black capitalism and so forth. But when we talk about Black buying power, or when we talk about how even the most radical Black left nationalists, somebody like a Khalid Mohammed, Malcolm X, before you say he went full socialism, Pan-Africanism, and anti-imperialism, you say that even the most Black radicals, Black nationalists, Black leftists have all gone to some form of, when we do capitalism, it's going to be a humane capitalism. If we just have everybody buy Black, if we're the owners of our own convenience stores and stuff like that, we can have our own Little Italy, our own Chinatown, and stuff like that. So that being said,
just to be clear, not just quickly, I'm not saying that every single one makes that argument. I'm saying that the argument overall encompasses all of the varieties of Black politics.
Yeah,
at one point or another. In terms of how those politics are represented by different individuals. So in other words, there's been groups who are varieties of nationalists, varieties of internationalist socialists who have all bought into a variation of that argument. I'm not saying that everyone in any camp has bought into that argument. Does that make sense? Does that distinction make sense?
I think so. I think so. But and that's a perfect segue to so that's a perfect segue to a scene from one of the best movies about the hood, about Black poverty, about intergenerational trauma, intergenerational poverty, which is Boys in the Hoods, by the late, the late, sometimes great, what was his name? What was
John
his name?
Singleton. John Singleton.
Yeah, John Singleton. That's probably his best movie. I think other movies he did since then, I think folks can ignore. But Boys in the Hood, which I think is a great social realist film, but even in that movie, don't they sell the idea of of the Black buying power when the Lawrence Fishburne character is talking about how gentrification works and how we can fight gentrification if us Black people, we own all of our stores, we employ, our own people, and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the scene specifically, but I think it sounds like, yeah, what you're saying lines up with my memory, as bad as that often is. But and yeah, that's part of what you know what? That would have been, damn, that would be a nice little side project. The specific appearances of the myth in film. Ooh.
For our audience, in case people are looking, in case people are watching this and going, "What the hell are these two even talking about?" Should I send you the clip right now of that scene in Boys in the Hood when the Lawrence Fishburne character is talking about gentrification, but then thinks the solution is that whole Black buying power.
You know what? Put it in the private chat. I mean, we'll probably get, I don't know what kind of censorship will happen with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get like a demonetization or whatever, but whatever. Come on, let's do it. Let's do it. Now, just while you're sending that to me, and I see some at least discussion of John Singleton in the chat, and Snowfall. A few years ago, the real original Rick Ross was passing through Baltimore and came to my class. And
the crack drug dealer, right?
Yeah, the actual Rick Ross, not the rapper.
Who Gary Webb exposed. He got all of his money from the CIA, drug trafficking in Nicaragua and all that.
All right, Tafari, thanks, man. I see you jumping off. Okay, peace, Tafari. Thanks for joining us in the first place. Appreciate you. Yes, that's the one I'm talking about, the original Freeway Rick. And the reason I'm bringing it up is that he had nothing good to say about Singleton at the time, who had not passed yet. And he basically was saying Singleton ripped him off and made a deal with the studios to take his story and turn it into Snowfall without Rick getting credit or money. So
what's your opinion on Snowfall then? Actually,
I haven't watched it. Haven't watched it. No.
Your reasons?
I don't know. Curious. Honestly, I don't know, because I don't know. Maybe I'm being influenced by what Rick said in my class. I'm also not interested. I don't know. I'm not looking for that story anymore. I mean, it's just, to me, another version of the same story. Black kid sells drugs, becomes drug dealer. He probably gets big, and then he dies, goes to jail, or has to struggle with the game. I mean, how many more times are we going to see this story? So I'm just not. I don't know. That's my. I don't know. I don't have any real reason. I don't know.
It's funny you say this. I was once asked by a fan of the show who got me into your work. I was always, I was always vaguely familiar with you because I used to watch the Real News a lot, and when I was watching current Real News, I would always watch past episodes of the Real News, and that's how that's how I became quite familiar with you and lots of other Black leftists, like Kim Brown, who now does full time Black Power media. But I remember so this person, a fan of the show, asked me, Yuri, why are you so interested in the plight of Native Americans? It's a question you often ask all of your guests. Why the interest in it? And one of the reasons I gave to her is because, one of the reasons why I cover the topics I do cover, whether it's Canadian topics, whether it's Eastern European topics, whether it's the plight of Indigenous people, is because I see so many other outlets who devote their time to talking about American domestic politics, American imperialism, not so much Canadian imperialism, British imperialism. And there's enough wonderful outlets like Black Power Media, like Black Agenda Report, like Hood Communism, which do a great job covering Black politics with a Black leftist perspective and an internationalist perspective. But there's not a lot of outlets covering Canadian topics, not a lot of outlets covering Native American topics. So therefore, why not, cover those topics? And for me, so for me, when you say that you can't, that you're tired of the same rise and fall of of the drug lord with a little bit of history in that the biggest drug dealers are the CIA and whatnot. For me, I completely know what you're coming from, because that's why I do cover the topics I do cover, while still trying to cover Black American topics, American topics. But again, like there's enough outlets with even bigger audiences than me that are covering that. So therefore, to try to make my program much more distinct, we'll cover Canadian topics, Eastern European affairs, and like Native Americans and Indigenous affairs. So
all right, right on. So let's check this out here, right? So this is the clip. Okay.
So when I interviewed you, when I said, why can't Black people just, have the kind of purchasing power the way the Jewish community has, in which some profits have to remain in the community? Why can't we have a little Italy? Why can't we have like a Chinatown? The reason I've heard that argument from Black leftists, Black nationalists. I've heard a version of that from Louis Farrakhan. I've heard a version of that from Khalid Muhammad. and you even get it in a fantastic film like Boys in the Hood, where the Lawrence Fishburne character, who's supposed to be the economist, who's supposed to be like the bank merchant or whatever he does to help Black people get, a foot in the housing ladder, even he is promoting a kind of a version of Black capitalism, and he's propping up the whole Black buying power, myth. I'm curious your response on that.
No, I mean, so my point in thinking it's a good idea to do a version or another edition at some point that adds, I don't know, that focuses on media representation of the myth, beyond even just like my references to Jay-Z or something like that, is because it demonstrates the same problem that I've been trying to highlight more often now by saying, well, what is your evidence for that? So like, there's no part of any of these scenes does anybody say, hey, this comparison to the Jews, where are you getting this from? Or if all the businesses in this community were Black owned, how would that really work? And what would that really mean for our economy? Like what does this actually mean for whatever Korean or Jewish or whatever other community that has these businesses? What do these businesses mean for their communities? Because none of this is ever answered. So that's my point. So the reason that scene is in the movie is because John Singleton, like anybody who has been anywhere where Black people talk to Black people, he heard a version of that. The reason it's allowed to be in a movie is because at no point does anybody's solution encourage an actual analysis of political economy and radical political organization. The blame is put squarely on the thugs. That's why Grady's character is in there. Grady is not just the old man. He's there. And by the way, for those who might not know, Grady was a character on Sanford and Son, a classic, legendary, brilliant addition to that highly contradictory but wonderful show of my childhood. His character is there to be the voice of the community and to be the clear narration of the ultimate point of the scene. Those thugs are the problem. We're the problem. Jews don't have these gangsters, which is funnily enough absurd, because my uncle used to run liquor for one of them, one of the biggest one of them. Meyer Lansky. My uncle actually used to run liquor for that guy.
Well, and that being said, Jewish Americans. It's just a version of a European immigrant. It's a version of a Russian immigrant. It's a version of an Italian immigrant. It's a version of anyone from the continent of Europe which came to Ellis Island, which came to any community and just set up shop. And many of them, of course, were involved with organized crime, and a lot of that is because of the poverty. It's because capitalism. There's so many deficits in capitalism that it's easy to be corrupt. It's easy that something that it's just institutionally it's just a rotten system. And I always just find it quite baffling when I hear a version of Black capitalism, even, well, yeah. Anyways, and there's just, yeah, and it's again, it's just funny how even the best of like the Black nationalists, left nationalists, recycle a version of, we can have capitalism with human characteristics. We can have capitalism with Black characteristics. We're going to be much more nicer to the workers when we have our own mini state or our own Black nation in America. To which I think, where do the like Latinos and where do the indigenous Americans fit in all of this? And aren't y'all going to eventually clash when it comes to Native Americans who want lands back and stuff like that? And again, this is why, this is why, even though I'm not very good at articulating my socialism, but this is just why, like, I really do believe in socialism and Marxism, and all oppressed people need to unite. I want, like, our Black people to team up with our Latinx brothers and sisters. I want them both to team up with our indigenous brothers and sisters and say to white America, say to white supremacy, say to racial capitalism, your days are numbered. I think that's
another one. I think that's another one, going back to the earlier part of the conversation. By the way, folks, if you came in late, at some point, go back and check the beginning if you want more clarity, the context, where we played a couple clips from Jackie's recent conversation with Professor Tauheed and what he had to say about reparations and politics over economics. But just very quickly, this movie right here. So first of all, that was my point, Big Teal. I don't know if you're being serious or if I'm missing something, but yes, there were Jewish gangs, and that was my point. Meyer Lansky, who was one of the biggest gangsters out of New York, was part of a Jewish-Italian mafia network that was national. Of course, the history of Las Vegas and Bugsy Siegel and all of that, and this film here, Once Upon a Time in America, is an amazing, amazing film with some very disturbing elements and scenes, trigger warnings in advance.
I personally don't like Sergio Leone, and I personally thought Once Upon a Time in America was too boring.
What?
Yeah,
and
man.
Did you catch?
I didn't like Once Upon a Time in America. I like Goodfellas. I like Casino.
No, wait a minute though. The storytelling, this is exactly my point, and I get it. This is where I usually run afoul with with movie choices with friends and family. Once Upon a Time in America is way better than Goodfellas, way better than Casino, way better than I don't know, not The Godfathers 1 and 2, but let me just make my point real quick on this. First of all, one, did you catch what, for me, I just learned after 25 years what may have been the actual ending of the movie? Like, did you ever catch
doesn't it end on a very ambiguous note where you don't know if
if it was all a heroin-induced dream, an opium-induced dream? I didn't know that I was always confused by the ending, but I never heard that version that was done somewhat intentionally and maybe on purpose to say that this movie may have all been a post-initial heist, opioid-induced fantasy.
But that's a weird cop-out, because that's like when we would watch episodes of TV shows where a big adventure happened, but then in the end of the day, the person wakes up and it was just all a dream. And like that was why so many people hated the end of the Roseanne sitcom, because apparently the last 3 seasons it was all just a dream out of Roseanne, who was writing a book.
Oh, I don't know about that, but yeah. Even without that, the story, but for me, even without that, the movie. The other reason why I like the movie is that again, it does depict Jewish involvement in the mafia, but also apparently, according, admittedly, anecdotally to my mother, a very accurate depiction of the Jewish community in early New York, where she was when Brooklyn streets were still not even paved yet, and there was horse-drawn carried buggies and whatnot. And then you see, and there's this like a scene where they show the tenement housing, and she was like, "Yeah, that's what it looked like." And I was like, that's nobody. Nobody's trying to live like that. Nobody's trying to live like that. But yeah. Anyway,
just to warn people that
boring. How dare you?
Well, just to warn people then, it's Sergio Leone, and if you thought that all of those spaghetti westerns were too slow and were too
exactly
slow,
this one too, Tom Hardy's character in this show. Sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
So Once Upon a Time in America, if you guys do watch it, do not expect it to be a fast-paced gangster flick like Scarface, Goodfellas, or Casino, or even The Departed. Martin Scorsese is way too keeps repeating himself.
The Departed was boring. Exactly. That was not good. But this movie was not. See, this is what I'm saying. Like, I don't have a problem with a slow paced story if it's.
I don't have a problem with a slow paced story either. It's just when it comes to my gangster pictures, it's got to be fast paced, man.
But and I thought this one was way too building, all that storytelling, all the. Anyway, all right, okay, all right.
But again, that being said, but going back to like our other conversation, it's just amazing how, when we talk about propaganda, when we talk about like the myths of capitalism and so forth, it's amazing how much it's been infected in so many people's minds that even the best left-leaning folks or people who claim that they want a more humane society, a better society. It's just amazing how so many of them have, are infected with, capitalism. When I shared our last interview with people, lots of people, like, they were all saying, I agree with with Jared. I don't like capitalism, but what other thing can we do to uplift our people, if not a version of capitalism with humane character with a human face, like like Czechoslovakia, they tried to do socialism with a human face. It seems to me as if this black buying power, which gets recycled in the form of Obama, or gets recycled in the form of a Louis Farrakhan, or gets recycled in even a social realist film like Boys in the Hood, is all saying, hey, Black people, we're mostly left-leaning people. We got our history of like Pan-Africanism, and therefore, when we have like our version of capitalism, it's going to be a much better version because we are going to take care of the poor and the working class and social mobility and all kinds of, I guess, nonsense, if you will.
I don't, but all I can keep saying is I don't have, there's, again, what would be the evidence for that claim? The evidence I've all looked at, the data that I've ever looked at does not support those arguments. And the simple fact that I don't have an exact answer as to what precisely we should do is not an argument against my critique of buying power and capitalism. So all I can keep, I don't have an answer when people say, well, Jared may have a point, but what else are we supposed to do? I don't know. But that's irrelevant to the question of will buying power work or will black capitalism work? Because no, they won't work. So the fact that I don't have exactly what will work does not mean that then means go back and do what we know won't work. So
when I first interviewed you and and in preparations, I thought, okay, what sort of question should I ask Jared? And I thought, well, let's talk about black capitalism because he's done this book, which a lot of people say to me, dude, you got to read this book, The Myth of the Black Buying Power. And when you were laying waste to black capitalism, to the idea of, tax cuts, the ideas that we just subsidize the small businesses, you laid waste to every single advocate of black capitalism, even a humane version, which some black leftist advocates. And for me, it just made me even more of a Marxist. Like, I felt like, dude, this guy has just smashed the myth of black capitalism. And if you can smash the myth of black capitalism, you can smash the myth that capitalism is the only alternative, is the only system.
But I didn't smash the myth of black capitalism. Like, it's already been smashed. And this is where I've always felt like I most understood Daruba's point, that we've already had this argument. And this is why I went back and showed, I didn't add it in the second edition because, I don't know, admittedly, I'm trying to walk a certain, I don't know, I'm softening my argument, I'm admitting it to try to just, anyway, but the Black Liberation Army got rid of this. Abram Harris got rid of this. The Earl of Fari Hutchinson got rid of this. Fred Hampton got rid of this. E. Franklin Frazier got. I mean, they've already. It's Robert Allen has already done it. Like, it's already been exposed as fraudulent. There's no data. So again, the people who support black capitalism have no data. That there's no data that supports their argument. So it is only the mythology.
But that being said, that's why there is so much efforts to suppress Martin Luther King Jr. when he spoke out on capitalism. Why it's next to impossible to find Malcolm X's writings and speeches where he talks about his socialism, he talks about Pan-Africanism, and talks about the need of internationalism and anti-imperialism and so forth. It is impossible to find it. You'll still find a version of Malcolm X talking about black buying power, which he kind of advocates in The Ballot or the Bullet, which is one of his best speeches. But that's even why, when the last time I interviewed you, I asked you to explain who W.E. Du Bois is, because the only time I've ever learned about W.E. Du Bois was he founded the NAACP, wanted civil rights for black people, later influenced Martin Luther King Jr., and that's it. I did not know anything about like even who this guy was, and of course his more radical politics, which was Pan-Africanism and socialism and whatnot. There's lots of efforts to suppress that, and I myself, because I often consume outlets like yours, Press News. I don't bother reading corporate media. I don't even bother reading corporate media just to post on Twitter and whatnot how pissed off I am that the New York Times is lying about this or the Guardian is lying about that. I only consume like left-leaning independent news outlets. So that being said, I underestimate the power of propaganda, corporate media, propaganda that comes out of the education system, with a few honorable exceptions, such as yourself, who's trying to decolonize people's minds. I always underestimate the power of propaganda, which is why to this day, I'm still kind of, sort of shell-shocked at the destruction of the Jeremy Corbyn project in Britain, because if most people are consuming BBC or corporate news outlets, whether it's the Daily Mail or the Guardian or the Sun and so forth, you almost can't be angry at people if that's the only news that they're getting, which is junk news, which is junk journalism, which is fake news and whatnot.
So Yuri, I appreciate this, and I want to start to address some of the other points in the chat. So you're welcome to hang out if you want, but I do want to start to move on because I'm eventually gonna have to start to wrap up here. But quickly, this is my point. The only time I really start to get frustrated is when I feel like folks are willfully not paying attention to my argument, or they just get flat out disrespectful. But I understand why there is hostility. And again, I even include a section in the book, that talks about why some research, why people are resistant to even the data that shows that what they've held as a core belief is not real. So I get what the difficulty is. I'm susceptible to it myself. But that's why propaganda is in the title of the work, because the issue is it's not so much an issue of economics. The economics have all been dealt with. They're dealt with by so many other people. I'm not an economist. The issue is really the biggest issue, and the problem is the messaging. And that was why when Quaker anarchists or socialists, now I can't remember what they are at this point with the name. I thought the name changed. I'm not sure, but the point that was that's why so many are well, in the context of that question, why so many white folks are convinced of a certain reality that isn't real. But that's a part of it in terms of that so much effort has been put to and is being put to creating this consciousness. So anyway,
the final thing I'll say is also, that's why you have people in France, even people who are not of a white background, who say stupid shit like France is a force for good in the world. And then they'll use one example. France didn't join the Iraq War, and then they'll completely ignore what France does in Africa, what France does in Haiti. It's why you'll find Canadians, even the ones who are leftists, who know that Canada is a grotesque capitalist state, settler colonial state, but they'll still believe in BS like Canada is a force for good in the world and Canada does nice peacekeeping in the world. In the end of the day, it all goes back to propaganda, a very good propaganda system, and my hat's off to it because if even the best of the left recycle BS, then it just means that truth tellers and mythbusters, like you, the evangelers of the world, it just means that like we have to step our game up, and we have to just like step our game up. And
we'll talk about my discomfort with being grouped with Eve Engler another time, but yeah, I mean, okay. But anyway, I appreciate you, my man. Thanks for coming through. Ensler, right? And You talking about the vagina monologues?
Oh, no, not her.
Who did you say?
No, Eve Engler is he's a Canadian historian, NGO critic, media critic.
My fault. I totally apologize.
Yes.
I'm ignorant to that work.
No,
said something else. I was like, what? Okay.
It's YVES.
Got
Engler.
you. Eves. Yeah. Got you. It was just got you. Thank you.
No, not the playwright of the vagina monologues.
Wait a minute. All right. Okay.
NGO work in Congo.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you. I appreciate you coming through. Thank you very much, and keep up the good work.
And Open Invites. Can't wait to have you back on to talk about cryptocurrency and why, if you are an anti-capitalist, we have to analyze the music industry. But anywho, right, Jared, thank you for the great work you do, and looking forward to speaking to you soon. Whenever.
Appreciate you. Thank you very much. Take care, man. All right. Thanks a lot. Yeah, speaking of which, so folks coming in late. Oh, first of all, Sugar Booger, I'm with you on this. I had saved that comment for, I don't even remember what I like either. So folks coming in late, let me just quickly, so I've never pretended to be an expert on blockchain technology. I think I know the basics. I've demonstrated that I know the basics. And more importantly, no one in all that I've read, which has been quite a bit at this point, who claims to know the technology can demonstrate how knowing the technology answers the question of redistribution, which is ultimately my biggest and most fundamental starting and ending point. So, Reef, another latecomer. Late, loud, and wrong. That's the category you and what's the name was it? Are in. This is not his conclusion. I've covered this extensively. So since if you're still here, go look at all of those videos. Go read the new book by Douglas and Loggins, Prophet of Discontent. Go read his final book, Kings, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community. Go read the Riverside Church speech. Go read his speeches to the leadership of SCLC at the end of his life that Douglas and Loggins reference in their work. This is not what he was concluding. He was concluding that we need something, if not full-blown socialism and communism, something akin to that. We need massive federal investment in Black people and the overall economy to address inequality. He was not, he said specifically, buying Black does not work. He said pooling our resources, as you say here, aggregating amongst ourselves. Dr. King said explicitly the exact opposite. Literally the exact opposite of that. You're completely misquoting him, misrepresenting him, and disrespecting him. So you don't have to agree with him. You don't have to agree with me, but you do have to be accurate in what he, and to a lesser extent, I am saying. And this is a complete misrepresentation of Dr. King's thought at the end of his life, which he left plenty of documentation on, as did those who were surveilling him and documenting his ever leftward trajectory and tracking it and marking it and targeting it as a threat to national security. So I hope that helps. But those were two late, loud, and wildly confused comments. So yes, I do, because financial literacy is false. I do go after people who are actively trying to educate Black people on financial literacy, because that is actively miseducating Black people on how the economy works. It is actually producing financial illiteracy. If you are financially literate, you are at minimum, a socialist. At minimum. That's financial literacy. So, but, Reef, since you've come so late, what I will encourage you to do, why do I go after those people? Since you seem to know how much I go after those people, go back and review why I said I did that. And then, since I'm so delusional, come back with your data and your evidence that shows what I've said and what I've said is wrong and what you say is right. Because what is your data and what is your evidence? Because you're calling me delusional while you're actively misquoting Dr. King. By the way, Reef, have you read Where Do We Go From Here? Have you read Prophet of Discontent? Have you watched any of my videos on Dr. King? I'm not going to put up another one of your comments until I want to see you answer that question before I wrap up. Reef, have you read any of those works? Reef. Oh, Reef. You're asking me, have I read Dr. Amos Wilson? Have you? All right, so I've answered all your questions, Reef. Have you read my book on the myth and propaganda of Black buying power? Clearly you haven't. Have you read Dr. King's Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community? You said clearly I have not? Oh, man. But you haven't answered any of my questions. Have you read any of King's work? And have you read mine to demonstrate that I haven't read or know anything about Amos Wilson? That is so funny. So Reef. On page 590, on page 589, this is where Dr. Wilson mistakenly references the Selig Center report on buying power as a source to make his argument in defense of buying power. So I've shown not only in the close read of his work that unfortunately in this one area, he mistakenly made reference to a bit of propaganda that he misread. So it's not to hate on him. There's much that he's done that is of great value in this book and elsewhere. But, you know, but Reef. 589, by the way, of the page. You're asking page. But Reef, you notice you have not answered once. Have you read any of Dr. King's work to make the claim that you made? You haven't made any reference to any of the work that I've produced. And I'm literally giving you the page numbers. So that's funny. No, that's not what it comes down to. I'm just showing you that I've read the work and read it closely enough to be critical of it in this one instance in my own work and elsewhere. And instead of addressing any of my questions, you just keep coming back. So that will be the end. That's the end, Reef. That was fun. But, you know, now you say you'll read my work. First, you'll jump in my chat and accuse me of a whole bunch of stuff and call me names. Then you say you'll go back and read my work. Just make sure you come back this loud with your apology. Just come back this loud in the chat with your apology. And my work is free. Go get the first edition for free. You don't even have to pay for it. So I admit that's the part that was perfect. Going back to what we were saying earlier, that's the stuff that's irritating to me. I can't front. So if you want to troll me, that's what it is. You come in here with the loud and wrong and late and accusing me of this and accusing me of that. And you're not even prepared. You won't even answer my questions. You haven't read my work. You haven't read the work of Dr. King. You just come in here calling me delusional. So that's a name, by the way. And an attack on the neurodivergent. You called me delusional. And then I give you page numbers and books and references and you got nothing. Oh, now you want me to give solutions. Come back earlier. Go back and hit the thing again and watch the other. And then you want to come back with solutions. Okay, there it is. This is perfect. This is perfect. Okay. That's right. Come back and apologize with the same intensity. And what the thing is, Reef, what is interesting to me is that for you to even be in this chat means you've been a subscriber for at least 60 days. So for at least 60 days, you've just sat as a subscriber to this channel and not participated by watching or reading any of the work or listening, and just to pop in, I guess, occasionally to make accusations and be wrong. So, I mean, because that was, at least you've been dedicated, because you can't have been here. You can't be in here without that longevity of subscription time. So congratulations. At least you hung out for a long time. You put in work for your trolling. But the other one left too. Diverse, what's his name, left? They came late and left early. And Reef still hasn't answered a question. And you're a Patreon supporter. I mean, congratulations. So for all this support, you should be get your value by engaging the content, because everything you've said tonight has been answered. The work has been there. So you just giving us money and not even helping out. You're not even getting your reward by getting the content. You don't have time to be a troll, and apparently you don't have time to do the reading either. Man, dang. So thanks for your support, but do us the honor of engaging the work then. Why? I mean, I don't understand the support without engaging the work. You asking questions that have been answered for years. But okay, I mean, wow. Well, I mean, okay, Diverse. I mean, I hear you, but you all capping me about blockchain technology, and that has nothing to do with my argument. Did you read my cryptoganda argument? Have you listened to any of my arguments around crypto and blockchain? What does a greater understanding of the technology do to address my argument? Because nothing about the technology addresses redistribution or the accumulation of the wealth that's being constantly created and still occurring. All right, well, Diverse Tribe, if you say so, then send me the link, send me the data, send me the analysis, send me where someone has written what I haven't apparently read, where a greater understanding of the technology will address, because technology has never changed social relationships. It only enhances them. So I would love to see this argument. Let me see it. Just what is the data? What is the analysis? This is the part that I admit frustrates me. People come in here in the chat and get all caps on me and don't read my work, don't engage the argument, don't even watch the videos apparently. And I keep putting in all this data, and like I actually was watching Earn Your Leisure and all these other folks to pay attention to their arguments. And then I mean, send me the link. Technology doesn't change anybody's relationship to anything. And I'm not aware. Somebody can, tell me where that's been, man, Roberto, he is for real going. There is somebody in the. Oh, that's messed up. That's messed up. Well, if that's the case, then this is one area where Yvette is right. You need data. I need an analysis. I need details. I need evidence. That was messed up. That was a low blow. Greenwood online banking. Remember when we showed what was it? Was like what was it? It was like $200 million, and all but 3 of it was from all of Andy Young's friends at the biggest banks. And that 3 was from Jesse Williams or whatever the actor's name is. I just clipped his interview with Ben Norton and did my little video on it because I was claiming another victory lap around being proven right. So if you're calling them agents, why are you yelling at me? And all I do is be right. What you mad at me for? Oh, that's funny. That's funny. I mean, the technology of allowing peer-to-peer communication, but I like Michael Hudson's point, because who's the other peer? It's a Sam Bankman-Fried. It's some other scammer. Permanent ledgers and it's all, okay. I did, and I should see that again. I thought it was remarkably well done. Am I wrong about that? I may have missed some of the details of the history, but in terms of the acting and the presentation and the storytelling, I thought it was brilliant. Brilliant. And I remember being so bothered at its brilliance that I was mad to see Del Toro in all these other movies. Like, that's how, like, the first time I saw Marlon Wayans in that movie Requiem for a Dream, ever since then, I keep getting more angry at the other roles he ends up with. I'm like, this dude is crazy talented. What in the hell is he doing with all of these other? I'm not mad at you either, for real. I get a little annoyed, but I'm not mad. I'm not mad at nobody. Well, that's no. I'm not mad at anybody around here, but I be getting mad at some of these people out there, boy. Some people, boy, I tell you, boy. It's nobody got me riled up. Cass mad. I don't know. I don't, years ago, I will say this, years ago, I predicted among, a small group of friends and colleagues, I predicted that my arguments around, particularly my naming people like Amos Wilson and others, and I enhanced it in this second edition that's coming out. I tightened up that section a little bit to clarify my point about Amos Wilson. But I predicted that would be a major problem and people would not hear what I'm saying. They would be blinded by a critique. But the reality is a lot of people who read Amos Wilson have not read his sources and have not read as widely in these areas as they would need to. And because he was right in so many other areas, and because, as I've said for years now, even where I'm saying he may have made a mistake, it's in an honest desire and an effort to help Black people get free. So I'm not mad at him. I'm just pointing out this one particular flaw in his work. But I predicted it would not go well for me, and it hasn't. But that doesn't. But at no point can anybody explain where I'm wrong. It's just there's just a general anger that I would have I guess the temerity to raise a critique, and I don't know what to do about that. I don't know. Yeah, he was amazing in Requiem, and it was a lot. Who said it was a lot? Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. But I'm just saying, in terms of seeing somebody act very well, I was like, damn, man, he could really. And we watching him. Well, I didn't see the movies, but he's doing like White Girls and all these other silly movies. It's like, ooh, man, this is. Why folks keep saying you can use blockchain for other reasons beyond crypto. We can get that point. We get that, and the point still stands. It doesn't change anything. Yeah. I've also seen there have also been a number of compelling arguments that we don't need blockchain. Like that a lot of what people say we need blockchain for can already be done. And again, I'm still of the whole argument that I don't want a situation where exchange is occurring with blind and anonymous folks involved. I wouldn't want that to be the basis of an exchange economy or whatever in a society, where if you get ripped off, you got nowhere to go and nobody you can reach out to, no complaint, no receipt, return, no money back guarantee. I mean, I don't want that. But Michael Hudson was right. Crypto was the libertarian answer to socialism. Everybody keeps saying we don't need redistribution and organized redistribution of the wealth we all create. No. If it's not capitalism, then let's do an end run around that and throw in some blockchain and some crypto. I know blockchain is not the same as cryptocurrency. I get that. I get it. But by the way, most of the people talking about the cryptoganda, as I was arguing it is, we're not saying that blockchain or that crypto being different from blockchain is the information that we need to make one work for us versus the other. In other words, they weren't saying do something with blockchain, that they were saying invest in crypto. And remember, Hill harped it with the Satoshis. Just get 1/100th of a coin. Nobody was saying, "Yo, let's get blockchain." And no, I know. I'm just saying, like, nobody was, just to clarify for whoever, nobody was saying, let's blockchain freedom. So this is one of the things that I was saying on the way home with my daughters, because they, a couple of them, this is what happens when you go to rallies. And my daughters, there was a moment in the conversation where they were like, it's some weird ones at these rallies. It's some weird folks out here, Pops. And I was like, but that's the reality of the situation. Like, it's not like you're only going to be able to build and work with the beautiful, cool kids, the beautiful, smart, cool kids. We're going to have to build with some folks that we don't really want to be around all the time, or that we don't, it's like part of us being free is that you be free over there. And I'm gonna be free over here. But that's, that's the real work, though. That's the hard work. And I think that's what, all this stuff about cryptoganda and buying power and reparations and all this, I think is all meant to get us to move away from. I don't know. It's not, but this is the problem. It's not, my children are sharp, and my wife is primarily the reason for that. But we're not the only ones influencing them. That's the problem. And I keep saying parenting is an exercise in powerlessness. So it's not been the straight line to sharpness that I once thought it was going to be. I was like, we're going to do this, and I got this. We're going to do, and then they're going to go from A to B, straight line. Born to sharp, and sharp meaning not just intelligent, but politically radically educated. It's not that easy. It's a lot of influences. I don't know. I don't have the one-shot solution, but you're not going to do it with mythologies of buying power and capitalism and crypto. I do know that. I definitely do know that. So, all right, good folks. Man, 3 hours? Yeah, let's wrap this up. It's been fun. I love doing it. It's got to do this some more. You got to do this more often. when I'm usually I'm way past bedtime, but ooh. What you need is dogs with that level of energy. I think he's been barking for 2 hours straight. And I'm looking at the and it's nothing. There's like a fox, and it sounds like it literally at first sounds like a screaming child is in the backyard. And when we first moved here, I was like, we'd have to go out back and be like, is that really a child out there? It sounds like a child needs our help, but it's a fox. He's never tired. He's not. And not while there's these foxes running around out there that scream. He's still going. No, thank you all. This was fun. I appreciate that. And big shout out to all the organizers and the people out there today. It was great to at least pass through. I'm constantly impressed by their ability to keep this up and to keep that pressure on. And I, and appreciate seeing them and supporting them in any way we can. Yeah. So tomorrow we got Ear Doctor coming up with Sundays. We're going to have, I think, a special, I don't know exactly what's happening with GIU for Monday, but go back and check out the RSTV from earlier today. And go back, and I put the Blackonomically speaking that I clipped earlier in the description. Go check that out. What else is coming up? A lot of good stuff is coming up. So just make sure you like, share, subscribe, have the bell checked and all of that. Oh! RB, man, I'm gonna get out to see you again, man. That's my main man. You know what? Straight up RBI. This is facts. So my wife we were just talking about we don't have parties anymore. COVID. It's been a while. We moved. And I said, I wanna have a party that DJ RBI spins at. And then we had to have this whole difficult conversation about the families and the collectives and it's some wild stuff trying to plan stuff. So I don't know. I didn't get the green light is the short answer on that. But I'm not giving up. So whether it's at our house or somewhere else, we got to get a DJ RBI. And folks, in all seriousness, I keep praising this man. This is my favorite people on the planet. But in addition to that, DJ RBI is one of the nicest DJs out there. Like, he's truly a beast. So like we gotta do something with this, man. I'm gonna work this out, man. So thanks for coming through, RBI. Man, that's my guy, man. That's. And to check his Instagram, dude stays in the company of the greats in hip hop. Big respect to DJ RBI. Yeah, we're gonna figure this out, man. Yeah. Nah, man. Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, you do have to. I mean, he's vicious. He's vicious. I mean, anyway, we could. I don't know how it's going to happen yet, but it's going to happen. We're going to do something. And when BPM has its big conference and all of that one day, he's going to be featured there as well. So anyway, thanks everybody for coming through. Thanks to everybody, who's really out there doing this great work. Yes, indeed. New Daughters of the Whirlwind on RSTV. Yes, indeed. Big shout out to them coming through. Burn It Down. The only reason I don't want RBI to guest on Sundays is because I want to, unless I'm there, I want to be in the building. Like if we have a special Sundays where either me and RBI are in Atlanta or Ear Doctor is up here, but they can't be doing that and I'm just watching it on TV, on YouTube. Like I'm not down with that. Like I need to be in the building. Yeah, I need to be in the building. yeah, for that. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Go check that out. Shout out to Yuri. Shout out to Tafari for jumping on the whatchamacallit. Appreciate you. All right, everybody. I'm gonna get out of here, man. Peace if you're willing to fight for it, like Fred Hampton used to say. Thanks again to everybody. And catch you next time here at I Mix What I Like and throughout the entire BPM platform. So if you're seeing this later and we didn't get to it,
Put it in the comments.
You know what I'm saying? Still trying
The
to
courteous top thought leader.
You know, giving you those.
Yeah, listen. That's called my boy.
And I didn't call.
Did you call bank? I call game.
All right, everybody, let's go get some. Let's wrap it up on some soda. I'll catch you all next time. Thanks, everybody. Peace.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.